So hi everyone, welcome to the Women's History Month interview series hosted by Faye and Superposition Fremont. Today our guest is Judith Smith, who is one of the founders and the director emerita of Access Dance Company. Hi, Ms. Smith.
Hello, how are you?
Good. Thank you so much for joining us. Could you tell us a little bit more about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, well, I am living in Oakland, and I'm probably the most known for being a founding member of Access Dance Company. And Access, for people that don't know, is also based in Oakland, and we are a contemporary repertory company comprised of dancers with and without disabilities. We started in 1987, which is a long time ago. And we were one of the first companies in the world to do this kind of work. And that's been pretty much my life's work, in addition to doing the Access and, building the company and being the both executive and artistic director for years. I also am a total nature nut, as you might be able to tell from my background. For this Zoom call. I grew up in Colorado, and what you can't tell is that I'm in a power wheelchair. I am disabled, and I was disabled in a car accident when I was 17. Prior to that, I had expected to have a career showing jumping horses. That's my first passion. But I do love nature, and I spend as much time out in nature as I can now, hiking, and I'm helping a friend start a birding for all program so that we can get more disabled people out into the world. I spent a lot of time getting people into the dance studio to dance, and now we're going to get them out of the dance studio and out into nature.
All right, yeah. Was there anybody in your life that influenced you to start dancing and do the work that you did at Access?
Yes, actually, I moved to California, to the Bay Area, when I was 23 years old. And I met a woman named Gail, who was an improvisational mover. And she was one of the first people that worked for me. I do use personal care assistants. And she asked me if I'd like to, start exploring movement. And I was still pretty new to being disabled, only about 5 years in. And having been somebody who was really, really physical, I didn't really know how to relate to my body or being physical. So when she asked me that, I was a little perplexed about what I would do and how I would move. And we just started working out of my chair and in my chair doing improvisational movement. And I got really hooked on being physical again. And that led me into martial arts. And I helped start a program for disabled women at Hand to Hand Kajakembo School in Oakland. And I had a wonderful sifu there, Colleen Gregan, who really encouraged me to look at all of the aspects of movement and meditation that I could do. And in that martial arts school, I met Access's first artistic director, Thais Mazer. And she was a dancer and wanted to get a group of people with and without disabilities together to create one dance work, which we did. And we performed it in 1988. And we were all just hooked. We were hooked on doing something that was really innovative and different. We didn't know anyone else in the world was doing it. So I would say, that those three women, Gail, Colleen, and Thais, really pushed me into being, a physical mover again. And learning how to move in ways that weren't just about getting from point A to point B in my wheelchair. It was really about being creative and, developing my relationship to my body.
Yeah. So you were at Access for over 30 years, and you've done a lot of advocacy and education work. So was there any point in your career where you faced a challenge, and how were you able to overcome that challenge?
Yeah, there have been a lot of challenges. You know, when you're somebody who's very, very able and very identified with what one does physically, for me, it was riding horses. You know, when you go through a traumatic injury, it's really devastating. And I think, you know, one of the big challenges was just learning how to look at getting over my perception of myself as a disabled person was a huge challenge. And I think what really helped me in that was moving to Berkeley, where there are so many disabled people, because Berkeley is really the epicenter of the disability rights and independent living movement. And I started meeting other people who were disabled and were having really full, successful lives. And, you know, that really helped me. But I was terrified of being in public, and I really cared about what other people thought about me and what they thought about me as a disabled person. And, you know, that was a big challenge, was just getting myself to go forward. And I never would have expected to have found myself performing on a stage, you know, and presenting and teaching in front of people. Once we started Axis, I think one of the biggest challenges was really convincing the world that we were a serious dance company, and that just because there are people with disabilities in the company, we weren't doing therapy. We were really doing serious art. And it took probably about 10 years to get the field to really understand that. You know, and then once we got over that hurdle and people started looking at us as a serious dance company, you know, a huge challenge was just continuing to grow and maintain, you know, a dance company of people with and without disabilities, because having, you know, accessibility challenges, we did a lot of touring, and, you know, we started before the Americans with Disabilities Act was passed. And so accessibility to theaters, traveling was really difficult. So, you know, we had all of the challenges that any other person starting a dance company and growing a dance company would have. But then we had a lot of additional challenges. You know, dancing is not what wheelchair manufacturers thought one would be doing in a wheelchair. So we had the challenge of keeping our, you know, we use these every day. We didn't have specialized dance chairs or just a chair that we used for dance. And so keeping our equipment running, keeping our bodies healthy, you know, keeping people happy, keeping money coming in, that was a big job.
Yeah. So I know you retired in 2018,
Mhm.
and with the whole coronavirus pandemic, what are you working on right now?
Well, I retired from Axis, but I have continued to be involved in the dance and disability field. So I helped start an affinity group through our national dance organization, Dance USA. And I've been co-chairing that, really focusing on how we continue to build the visibility of integrated dance and to make opportunities available for disabled people who want to dance. So that's one of the things I'm doing, you know, still in the dance field. I'm also working on the Axis archives, which, as you can imagine, after 30 years, there's, you know, a lot of material. And of course, we started this archiving project with an archiving fellow last spring, and that was right during COVID. So the process has gotten more drawn out, and we are hoping that we can kind of get all of our archives moved up to the UC Berkeley Bancroft Library this summer. But it remains to be seen, you know, how much we'll be able to do on site and in person.
Yeah.
You know, the other thing that I'm doing is I love nature, as I said. I grew up in the mountains. So I'm right now taking a course to become a California certified naturalist. I drive, I do animal transport for Oakland Animal Services and Feral Change, helping to get cats spayed and neutered in the city of Oakland and beyond, just to start to bring the population down and to make the world a little bit better place for our cats and our wildlife. I also foster squirrels, baby squirrels. We just released our first group, and I raise butterflies. So those are kind of the things that I do outside for fun. I did also start doing adaptive carriage driving. So I drive horses in a carriage, though I didn't drive it all last year because of coronavirus. It's a little hard to be socially distant in a horse carriage. So I've been managing to stay pretty busy.
Yeah, that sounds really fun. So you've done a lot of things, you've helped develop an internationally recognized dance company. You've won a multitude of awards. You foster squirrels, and you're working on becoming a naturalist. I think that's really cool. But out of all of your accomplishments, what's one thing that you're the most proud of?
Well, Access mission was to change the face of dance and disability through artistry, education, and advocacy. And I think what I'm most proud of is changing people's lives, bringing people who wanted to dance but didn't feel like they had permission or a place to go, or they thought they couldn't because they were disabled. I think that that's been the most rewarding. We performed, and Access still does perform for youth a lot. And I think being able to go into elementary schools and especially, and really give people a picture of, what disability really is and what people with and without disabilities can do when they collaborate together. So I think just that whole engagement and making the world look at people with disabilities and to look at dance differently. I think that's what I'm most proud of.
So yeah, like you mentioned, you've been able to meet a lot of different people, and I'm sure that you've been able to see people's perception of dance and disability change, but I'm sure there's still work to be done. So if there's one change that you'd like to see in our generation, like future generations, what would that change be?
I think what I'd love to see is for young people, especially young women, to really find their own person and be okay with being uniquely yourself. I'd love to see a movement away from materialism and commercialism and, all of the things that we're told we're supposed to look like or be like in social media. I really do see, and I want to see even more, your generation embracing difference and really finding power through collaboration with people who are really different than you, and being proud of your identity. I mean, I'm very proud of being a disabled person. It's not an easy thing to be in our society, even now. And, I'm so proud of my disabled community and my disabled friends. And I want, I want this generation to really recognize that disability is part of diversity and intersectionality, and it gets left out a lot. The disabled community gets left out a lot.
Yeah.
And it crosses all boundaries of race, age, class, religion, gender, sexual orientation. Disability is really non-discriminatory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think it's safe to say that you've made a significant impact in the dance world, and just and you've been able to impact a lot of people with disability and change people's perception on disability and the potential of people with disabilities. So my last question is, do you have any advice for youth who want to make a difference in their community?
Yeah, I think I do. Be proud of your accomplishments, but stay humble and stay grateful. Find ways to be of service. Follow a passion that really contributes to the betterment of the world, and not just lining your own pockets, and having that yacht and a huge house. And, because we're at a very, very critical time on our planet. And it's important to take care of yourself and your community. And I think most of all, to take care of the planet and to protect the environment. Find your passion and, get out in nature, and see what's around. And, don't be afraid to meet and interact with people who are different than you, because there is a lot of power in collaboration across difference.
That's really good advice. Thank you so much
Welcome.
for coming here and speaking. I really enjoyed chatting with you.
Well, thank you for asking me. I'm glad I had the opportunity, and I wish you all the best of everything.